Okay, so I want to introduce Rabbi Dov and Audrey Zemel. Rabbi Zemel was one of my rebbeim in Migdal HaTorah, and he made Aliyah twice. So just tell us about yourselves, guys. How's everything?
Thank God, we're doing well. We're very happy to join you. This is a tremendous undertaking that you're trying in terms of trying to help people make Aliyah from all 50 states to Eretz Yisrael and help different stories. So, like you said, our story was we made Aliyah twice. Officially, we didn't disavow and then reapply. But we initially came in order to teach at the yeshiva in Ichmas some years ago. We were in Eretz Yisrael for a few years, and then we went on shlichut to Atlanta, and then we came back 18 years ago? 13 years ago. That's why Audrey's here, because she knows things much better than I do. The first time we made Aliyah, there was no nefesh b'nefesh. Now, when we came back, we came back with nefesh b'nefesh in order for our daughters, who at that time were 5 and 3, to appreciate the fact that they were coming back with the celebratory way that nefesh b'nefesh does it. They did a phenomenal job, and really, people, if they could take advantage of that, of using nefesh b'nefesh, it's really very special. They make it a special event. It's a special event even without that, but they make it so much easier, and it's much easier nowadays, I think, to make Aliyah than it was then.
Right. Then we left JFK, and from the terminal, we called up our parents from the payphone. We said, "Okay, we're getting on the plane." And we got on a regular flight. There were no charter flights. There were no flights holding, just North American Olim. And we came on a flight, and we had actually a volunteer for Americans and Canadians in Israel who met us at the airport. And she took us through, took us upstairs for, to process our citizenship. And from there, we went straight to Michmas, which I had never been to. Studied there and really enjoyed, had a wonderful there. And that's where work was. Luckily, I was also there, not in my professional education, but as a secretary. And we continued like that for about 3 years, which brought us to the whole Intifada starting in September of 2000, which led us to making, due to financial reasons mostly, making them to be able to continue in education, and for me to be able to also get back into education. We went through Torah Mitzion. We did shlichut for what started out as 2 years and ended up as almost 5. And then we came back. We came back to Israel. A lot of people were skeptical. A lot of people thought, "Oh, that's it. That was their ticket back." We kind of had to prove ourselves that we were planning on making Aliyah. We weren't just using them for a way back. And and then we had some wonderful experiences, made some excellent friends, and got involved in the in the community, and we were very hands-on. And then we decided we want our kids really to grow up in Israel. Our oldest was 5, and we wanted to go back to our original decision that we wanted our kids raised in Israel. And we were able to work out a situation where we were able to come back under different circumstances, different jobs, and so on. So we came back in 2007. to Ma'ale Michmas.
Nice. What was the transition? I mean, like you made Aliyah before Nefesh B'Nefesh. Can you tell us more about that? Can you tell us how these new Olim might be a little spoiled? I mean, like, like was
Well,
it
first,
difficult before Nefesh B'Nefesh? Was it just as hard? How was the process like?
the process was interesting. We were living in New York at the time, so the Aliyah Center, which is part of the Jewish Agency, was offering classes, and so we used to drive in from Queens to Manhattan to 59th Street to the Aliyah Center, and we used to take classes on learning about the educational system and the insurance system, healthcare system, how to navigate the bureaucratic end of it. Filled out forms, lots of paperwork, and I think to that end, probably, fill out paper, have a lot of paperwork to fill out. But things like when my parents made Aliyah, they used Nefesh, and I noticed that there was much more. There was someone to speak to. Like if they had a question, if they had any clarification needed. Whereas I guess we kind of went but we were also, younger. We didn't have kids, and we were just a young couple. We had already decided where we were going to live. If someone has to decide where they're going to live, then it definitely helps to speak to in an organization like Nefesh B'Nefesh or something like that, where they can help people make more educated decisions.
Got it. So meaning even though you guys moved before Nefesh B'Nefesh was there, I mean, like the process was you had to fill out a lot of paperwork, but but it was still somewhat relatively easier in a way.
It wasn't hard.
Right.
You figure you're going to go through bureaucracy anyways. People think, oh my gosh, Eretz Yisrael niknit al yidei yisurit. Then when you're coming to Yisrael, the only way to do it successfully is you're going to have a hard time and things are difficult here. It's not true. Going to any new country, becoming a citizen anywhere, right. And here you get rights. They helped us. You get your lift on your way here, and financially they help you with your mortgage, and they help you with your rent, and if you're getting a degree, if you do your first degree here, your master's or your master's, for the way when we came here, they would pay for that degree. So they make it. It's so much. When you compare it to moving to any new country, we asked my mother-in-law who moved, from Egypt when she was a young girl to South America, and then South America when she was, I think, 20.
Yeah, she moved to the United States on her own. I think that, I think a lot of the concerns or the difficulties that people go through is because they're unfamiliar with the immigration process in general. People who were born and raised in the United States, and their parents and their grandparents, and they never experienced, even indirectly and certainly not directly, immigration to any country. And they hem and they haw, but Israel's the only country that's accepting them with open arms and really rolling out the red carpet. Yes, there's bureaucracy. Yeah, there are processes. There are plenty of hoops to jump, plenty of them.
But that definitely didn't stop you guys from making Aliyah twice.
Well, like I said, we had planned to come back. It was just a matter of exactly. So it's just important that a person shouldn't get too frustrated with themselves, like, they left, they came back. Everything has its time, and everything you have to take each opportunity. Find the best in every opportunity.
So my next question is, why did you guys decide to make Aliyah? Meaning, what motivated you, the two of you, to make Aliyah?
Well, I knew that if I was going to date my husband, it had to be pretty serious about Aliyah. It was a known thing.
Okay.
It was a known thing that Bruce Zemel has.
From when I
One is a known thing.
When I was very young, it was definitely something that in our family was very implicated.
No, I can't hear you very well, Rabbi Zemel. Sorry.
Hold on 1 second. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, much better.
Okay. From when I was younger, like in my like we go to Bnei Akiva and we go to Mosheva and stuff. However, the reason why we really made Aliyah when we made Aliyah was because Rav Chaim Ozer Chait was opening up the yeshiva, or to open the yeshiva in Mechmas, and there was an opportunity. And it's funny because it wasn't because we were so ideological that we made Aliyah when we made Aliyah. It's because it worked out. But if you had to ask us now, right, but my boss, I work for an American company, and my boss in America at one point asked me if I would be open to moving to America. And obviously the salary would be commensurate to an American salary and so forth. Would I be open to it? And that would open up significant opportunities. It was tremendously nice of him I don't know how serious he was in terms of that question. But my answer was immediately, definitely that's a deal breaker for me. Because even though from the onset, when we made Aliyah, it was the position open to the yeshiva and so forth, now we realize the situation we're in is an absolute dream. Like when we say in Shir Malos, Hayinu kecholmim, Zorim bedima, they sow the seeds bedima with tears, barina yiksoru, they'll harvest them with joy. Our situation now, we were talking about it with our daughter now, our oldest graduated high school last year. Now she's doing Sherut Lumi, where in the daytime, she's helping out elderly women doing arts and crafts, going to their houses, doing arts and crafts with them, going to a senior center. And then the evening, she's going to Midrashah, and she's learning serious Limudei Torah. And then to have our 16-year-old also running Limudei Kodesh at a very high level in high school here. And the high schools here, when you're learning Limudei Kodesh, oftentimes it's at a much higher level than they are in America. The kids already have the Hebrew and so forth, and it's at a very high level. And then when our son just got bar mitzvah here, the whole thing, like it's an absolute dream. And then when you look, if you like, all these entrepreneurs have an idea of know your next 5 moves or your next 15 moves or what's your 15-year plan, right? So if you don't look at a 15-year plan, if you look at like a 100-year plan or 200-year plan. So if you put your family here in Eretz Yisrael, where right now it hasn't been like this since the first Beis HaMikdash, where you have almost the majority of the Jews living here. That's even when you have the second Beis HaMikdash, and we're like, oh wow, the second Beis HaMikdash is here. We have an opportunity to really to bring it back to the level that it was at beforehand. They weren't successful, and the majority of Jews weren't here, and if you're a person who believes that when something happens to the klal, it's deliberate from on high, then you realize something's happening, and then you have an opportunity to be part of that. And unfortunately, in America, even people who grew up from homes and having it from home themselves, and maybe their kids don't necessarily continue being Jewish, or certainly grandkids sometimes not. And even if a person makes Aliyah, they've already changed the trajectory, or at least improved the chances of the trajectory to be involved in the greatest mission that the world has seen. So it's a phenomenal. So when you ask why did we do it, it's funny because we did it because the job opened up in the yeshiva.
It made sense.
Right.
And it's something we wanted to do, and the timing was right in terms of our schooling and our jobs and everything. And it was but now we realize that we feel like we're part of something very important, and we feel that we made a very important decision that will not just influence or affect us, it will affect our children and our, the future generations to come.
Right. Now, I just wanted to, just go back to the job real quick. So you mentioned you're working for an American company, because I know there are many people, who are probably watching now or will be watching later, that are concerned about jobs, and if they do work for an American company, is it stressful, managing the American hours in Israel?
So it depends on what a person does. But yeah, I mean, it could be that if a person's work, if sometimes a person has to work American hours, and that's definitely a challenge. But it's a challenge. In America, I mean, my brother made Aliyah, and from New Jersey, and he's a partner in a law firm from New Jersey. I mentioned this to you, I think, yesterday when we spoke. When he was working in America, he would come home late at night, and he wouldn't see his little kids because he came home after they were asleep. And then when he was working in Israel, American hours, okay, so he was able to, when he would come after, was it last night? I ate dinner with the family at home. I mean, there's a benefit also now with COVID, with Corona. I mean, I'm not, obviously there's tremendous challenges with Corona. But there is a benefit in terms of being able to work from home that a lot of companies have. We had a Shabbos guest this past Shabbos who he made Aliyah 3 months ago, and he's an accountant. And the company, the firm that he was working at, if he just moving out of, like, working from home, that would have been, they wouldn't have continued having him on. Once the whole Corona thing started, they said, okay, everybody can work from anywhere in the US. And he said, okay, well, I'd like to go to Israel. And they said, okay, fine. They made an exception for him. But It just goes to show that right now, in terms of making Aliyah, there's an opportunity that did not exist a year ago.
That's very interesting. Like many people are concerned about moving to Israel and they're going to lose their jobs. But it was almost, it's funny. My company, Keller Williams, they're very big into technology, because we know that everything is going into we're in the fourth industrial revolution, and that's technology, right? Everything's most things are going to be in a technological field. So COVID just sped up the process. Working from home, regardless if you're 2 blocks away from the office or 3,000 miles away, we can all work remotely now. So if that's stopping someone, from what I'm gathering, it shouldn't. It should be easy now. In fact, you should get a flight and be like, hey, look, boss, I'm working, instead of working from home in New York, I'm going to work from Israel.
Absolutely. And you never know where you might decide to stay in America with the job there and so forth. There's no guarantees with these things. If a person comes here, there is a clear guarantee regarding being home. When when we were saying you always go through bureaucracy when you're changing countries, and that here it's not worse, it's better. It's so much better because when you get here, you feel like you're at home. And there are people take you in, and but we have people moving directly to our yeshuv from America, like the individual who I mentioned a moment ago, and everyone's helping them. Their shipment didn't arrive. They had to wait 3 weeks. So on WhatsApp, somebody put a request on WhatsApp. Does anybody have extra sheets and stuff?
Wow.
And there was a whole big to do in the yeshuv to make sure that they were taken care of.
To furnish their home so that when they got into the house, they had necessary things, whatever they needed to set up their home: pots, pans, towels, sheets, etc.
Right. So
it helps to have somebody there where you're going to live, like someone that can help set that up.
Right. So just because we're a little over right now, but just to wrap up a bit, can you tell us more about the community that you live in, or if there's an Anglo community there? How is it a mix? Is it just Israelis? Can you tell us more about that and what you like about it?
Kochav Yaakov is in the Binyamin region. It's northeast of Jerusalem, about 15 minutes away from Pisgah Yaakov. It's a yeshuv, so there's a klita process, an absorption process. It's mostly Israeli. I would say 50% Israeli, and then 50% combination Olim, South American, French, and then North American, and it varied as far as Sephardi, Ashken, Breslov, Hasidish. It neighbors Tel Zion, which is a very or a growing Haredi community. We felt that it was a good combination. We wanted something that had a strong Anglo community, which does. It has weekly programs and special events and just general support for Olim. And it had, so it's not completely Anglo. It's not completely. It's more of it's a good combination. So that way a person can learn the language, learn to adapt. Their children can adapt and integrate properly into Israeli society. Anything else?
Awesome. And I guess my last question to you guys is someone, if to the audience, if someone is watching this now, who might be in your shoes, what message would you give them? What advice would you give them?
You have to make your own decisions, obviously, but it's a tremendous opportunity that go in with your eyes open. Like my wife was saying, the classes that we took in Manhattan before we got here to understand the insurance system and the educational system, it's a learning process. You keep learning. When you're listening, even if you don't know Hebrew well, or you do know Hebrew well, when you're getting here, you'll learn every second, and you have to keep looking up the words. This past week, we were talking to a psychologist who mentioned a phrase that I figured out while he was talking what he was saying, but because I'm not in that realm. But so it's definitely helpful to understand it's a process. And if you come in with the right attitude, you will feel tremendously blessed. I'm not sure if immediately or at every stage you'll feel blessed, but you'll certainly get to a stage where you'll look back and say, I can't believe I didn't do it sooner, type of thing.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you more.
Wonderful.
All right.
Yeah. Sure.
That's
Talk to you later.
That's like
Take care. Bye, guys.